Hi, my name is Connor McNamee. I'm a student at Temple University, and I'd just like to start off by telling you a little bit about myself. I think one of the most important things about myself is that I have a strong sense of intrinsic motivation, and I think graduating high school 12th in my class and with a 3.9 GPA really serves to illustrate this point. I've taken a few Myers-Briggs personality tests and scored as an ENFJ, which basically just means I'm an outgoing, people-pleaser kind of guy. I'm always trying to find new ways to bring different kinds of people together and make new friends and find new ways to work with people, because I believe that working with a diverse group really helps improve how you think about things and how you approach problems. I'd consider myself to be a passionate and creative person as well, and I think this passion and creativity has played a big role in my decision to pursue a career in business. When I become passionate about something, nothing will stop me from devoting my full effort to it. Take guitar playing, for example. I've been playing guitar for about 6 years now, and I practice anywhere from 5 to 7 hours a week, and I'd like to think at least that as a result of my intense dedication to the guitar, I've become pretty good at it. So I would apply this to the business world in trying as hard as I could to become passionate about my business and help it be as profitable as it possibly could. My creativity has also played a huge role in my decision to go into business, because having a creative outlook on problem solving can really help diversify your company from the competition and possibly help create something really incredible. I'm a songwriter, and I often find myself stuck writing a new song. So what I do whenever I get stuck is I take a break from my own music and I just put my headphones on and listen to as much music as I possibly can. And a lot of times I find that this leads me to new inspiration that I wouldn't have had otherwise, and I can apply that to my own songwriting. I could apply the same concept to business by doing a lot of research on different companies and trying to apply their concepts to my own business, and therefore possibly create something really incredible. And finally, I'd consider myself a person deeply devoted to ethics. Both my mother and stepfather worked at Arthur Andersen right around the time of the Enron scandal, so they both lost their jobs at a company that they loved and cared very deeply about, all because a few people made some very, very bad decisions. Even though this happened when I was young, as I've grown and studied business more, it occurred to me that the whole scandal could have been avoided had the people involved just done what they were supposed to do and not broken various laws and ethical codes. From this, I've learned how important ethics are and the consequences of violating ethical codes, and I always adhere to ethical standards both in my work and my personal life. Just to tell you a little bit about one of my more significant accomplishments, I have a story about my senior year in high school. During the early part of my senior year, I was elected president of a club at my school called the Rational Youth Society. The club was basically geared towards the development of critical thinking skills through open, rational discussions of intellectually stimulating topics like politics, religion, and morality. Being president of this club was a difficult undertaking for me because of my other commitments. I was a straight-A student, I was heavily involved in my school's music and theater programs, so I had a lot on my plate. And at the time I was elected president of Rational Youth, I had just received a lead role in my school's production of Dracula. So now I had to figure out how to budget my time, which I knew wasn't going to be easy. I had a lead in the school play, I was the president of a club, not to mention my actual schoolwork, and on top of all of that, I had a girlfriend and family to tend to. So needless to say, I was a little stressed out at this point because I was accountable to so many different people for so many things, but I knew that I wanted to exude a sense of inspired influence to the people who looked to me to perform well. So I had some tough decisions to make here. On the one hand, I had just been given the highest position in an organization that I myself helped to found, and people within that club were looking to me to provide discussion topics for our weekly meetings. On the other hand, I've been given a major role in a school play, and I had an entire cast to support by being at these rehearsals. So after weighing all of my options and analyzing the alternatives, I decided to temporarily focus my attention away from Rational Youth and focus on the play, simply because the play was finite and when it was over I could resume my leadership of the club. However, I also needed to make sure that the Rational Youth functioned in my absence. So what I did was I delegated my responsibilities of finding discussion topics to the rest of the executive boards. And what they did was they temporarily took on my responsibilities and just led the meetings and generated the topics. So my decision played out exactly as I had hoped it was going to, in that the play was extremely successful. In fact, we sold almost 200 tickets a night, which was very impressive considering our location. And Rational Youth functioned really well in my absence. They had a few great meetings that I was unable to attend, and as soon as the play was over, I resumed my normal role of facilitating the discussions. The reason I consider this to be so significant is because I was able to make an important decision about how to balance multiple leadership positions, and the decision I made was successful. Finally, I want to talk about something I've learned in my leadership class, which is that to be successful in business, you have to be aware of a variety of aspects of a company's functions at any time, and be prepared to adapt to changes in these functions regardless of your role in an organization. For example, if you're the CEO of a firm, you're responsible for ensuring that things like the management structure and strategic plan of your company fit your company's long-term vision and values. If you're a giant corporation that employs thousands of people, your organization can't operate on a completely flat structure, so you have to be aware of that. If the same company, for example, commits to trying to find new sustainable solutions to energy, dumping your waste in the nearest river obviously wouldn't fit with your espoused values. I actually read an article recently in the Wall Street Journal about UBS cutting around 10,000 jobs from its investment banking division because that area of business just doesn't work with their goals anymore. And of course, firing 10,000 people is an extremely difficult decision to make, but their senior leadership took on the responsibility of making this decision, and they did what they did to basically benefit the company as a whole. So it's an extremely difficult decision, of course, but they did what they did for the well-being of the firm. And change, of course, doesn't just affect the top executives in a corporation. It affects every single person in an organization. If you were an employee at the lowest level of a major company working in the trenches every day, you have just as much of an obligation to understand the mission and values of the company as you would if you were the CEO, so that your actions can be in line with that. For example, I work for a company called DeVito, which is a kidney dialysis company. And even though I'm just a lowly paper shuffler, I had to complete several hours of compliance training to make sure that I understood all of the laws associated with HIPAA, which is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. And DeVito wanted to make sure that I knew these laws to prevent me from breaking any of them and damaging the company's reputation as an ethical company that values its patients. So even though my position at DeVita is a low-ranking one, I had to make sure that I was aware of the laws because the company values compliance with the law very highly. So I understood the purpose of my compliance training in a much more significant context after taking my management class.